So yeah, my favorite adaptation would have to be Spider-Man in the Spider-Man 2 video game for PlayStation 2. The reason why is because every Spider-Man game prior to this, like when you were like web slinging and you were like swinging all over New York City, your web was just hitting like some blimp that was just automatically over top of you. Like you were always just shooting your web just willy-nilly up into the sky, and you could go straight, you could do anything. There was no buildings that you were latched onto. But in Spider-Man 2, it brought in this whole new mechanic that you actually had to be like around buildings and stuff. And even if you were like catch onto like the corner of a building, you would actually start to like hook around. Like the mechanics were amazing. You could still choose to do the old like straight up into the air mechanic as well, but it was nowhere near as fun. And you had like all these different like web slinging like styles. Like you could slingshot yourself and like just to get extra speed, and you could wall run and all this stuff. It was just a great adaptation. You actually felt for the first time, in my opinion, that you were actually the wall crawler / web slinger / badass. So yeah, the only bone I have to pick with this game, hands down, was Bruce Campbell leading me astray, because you have to do a bunch of side missions before you unlock the actual mission. At the very end, it's like, oh, you have to do 50,000 points worth of side missions, which was just a ridiculously large amount of side missions to get to the next boss or the next mission. And when you got those 50,000 hero points from being a good doer, he just says, "Oh, great, you finished the game. Congrats." It's like I could have stopped this like 3 days ago, because that's when Blockbuster was still a thing, and I was overdue on my rental.
To be honest, I never really had a favorite crossover game. You know, I always played them from when I was young growing up. I played, you know, Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo. I remember playing, I can't remember if it was Batman Forever for Sega, but kind of just stumbled through them. I played them all the way up. Superman N64, Spider-Man games for PS2. I even played like the Arkham games on the recent consoles, but I never really had a favorite. Some of them were challenging. I just always feel like there's too much storyline in the comic book world to cram into a single game. You'd almost need like a trilogy of games, like to just kind of break characters in or whatever. But it's like you see this guy for one scene, you fight him, he's gone. This guy comes in out of nowhere just to have him pop into the game. It always seems forced. They're too forced on me.
So, best video game adaptation of a comic book character. Again, since Spider-Man's my man, I want to say Maximum Carnage for the Sega Genesis. It came out on Super Nintendo, but I didn't have a Super Nintendo, so I had Sega Genesis, so I played it for that. Now, the music was awesome in it. At the time, the storyline going on was Maximum Carnage, and since I was young then and reading it, it was my favorite storyline. And the fact you got to play as both Spider-Man and Venom and play through pretty much the comic book was awesome. And each cutscene had like a snippet of almost the comic book you'd play as. And I'd be playing that every day with my friends. But if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with Batman Arkham Asylum, for the reason that I wasn't really a huge Batman fan, but playing that game made me one. In the fact that the storyline was good, it was dark, and it had the same voice actors as the Batman animated series, which I grew up on as a kid. And ultimately, playing that game, it made me want to go out and immerse myself in that Batman continuity, so I ended up subscribing to Batman comics, and that's how I ended up reading them up till today. Because before then, I just kind of thought they were kind of campy, like the Adam West sort of show, so I never really was huge into it like I am Spider-Man. So if it wasn't for that game, I wouldn't have gotten all the current Batman knowledge that I have right now, and I think that's why it would take the winner of it, because not only did I just play a video game, but it made me buy more of their product and immerse myself in that world. Not to mention the takedowns and the music in there, and just the voice acting. Perfect.
Well, Kevin Conroy is a man.
Yeah.
Oh, quick, Robin, the Peever repellent bat spray.
So I know everyone's going to be like, oh, Dave's here talking about a comic book character in a video game, it's going to be Batman. Wrong. Everybody knows I like Batman, so I didn't want to go with Batman on this one. I wanted to do a different character. Another comic book character that I followed for a long time. I played a lot of the game, watched the movie, watched the TV show, read the comics, everything like that, and that is Spawn. Spawn is such an amazing comic book character. If you have not read the comic books or watched the movie or the animated show, watch it. It's awesome. But the game that got me for this, and some people loved it and some people didn't like it, I don't understand, I thought it was amazing, was Spawn Armageddon for the original Xbox. Now, the cool thing about Spawn is he's got this insanely twisted origin story where he was like this like assassin for like the CIA and all that, and then they betrayed him, and then so Hell was like, oh, we'll let you live again, but you gotta lead our army. So he took that deal, came back to Earth with all these powers and all that, and then was like, I'm not gonna work for the devil. So then he's actually like hunting the devil while hunting the guys that killed him and the government and all that. And so it's a crazy story, but the cool thing about him is he has like these demonic powers with his cape and and like this green like plasma glowing kind of power that he has, but he also uses like the most badass of guns. So you get the kind of the best of both worlds, plus he's like an amazing like hand-to-hand fighter in the game and everything. So overall, like, awesome game, especially for the Xbox. The graphics were so good for the time. It's just an amazing game for an amazing character that has such an amazing backstory as is. So yeah, so for this episode, not going with Batman, going with Spawn. You should check it out.